So, welcome into episode 3 of the Tipsy Tailgate. We've got a great show for you guys today. We will be touching on a couple segments. One segment we call is Contenders or Pretenders, as well as our way too early MVP picks. We're also going to share some bets that we like for the upcoming NFL week, and then finally wrap it up with our fantasy football segment that we're very excited for. So let's get started here. Without further ado, let's get into Contenders or Pretenders. All right, Contenders or Pretenders. Let's get started with some of the more serious ones here that might be a little bit more heavily debated. We're going to start here at Las Vegas Raiders. They're 2-0 right now. What are we thinking, Contenders or Pretenders?
I think they are. Sadly, I think they're pretenders. I wish they were contenders, but they've done the same thing the last few years. Starting out hot, but then mid-season hits and they fall apart. I hope that they are contenders, but sadly, I think they are pretenders.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think they start out hot because I think Gruden is a very good coach, but I think they're also a very easy team to game plan for because I don't think Derek Carr does anything special or anyone on that offense really stands out and is a game changer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Raiders, when it comes down to it, I don't think their defense is ready yet. I think that they're putting the pieces in place, but I don't think they're ready yet. I think a couple more years before they're ready. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think Derek Carr is the one that's going to bring them to the promised land.
Yeah.
I think they're a quarterback away and a defense away. They're still not the spot where I think they're a contender yet. So I'm going to go pretender here. Second one, we got the Denver Broncos at 2-0. This is a team that we've talked about heavily and we've actually been high on. So 2-0 Broncos, what are we thinking? Contenders or pretenders?
I personally think they are pretenders, but I think they're going to look like contenders for the first about half of their schedule. It's a pretty easy schedule. I think they'll look like contenders, but they are in fact pretenders.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I just think that division is so tough for them to win. And I want to see if Teddy Bridgewater can win those games where they are just not supposed to win. Mm-hmm. If they can do that, then they have my vote.
Yeah, I agree. I think that their defense makes a little bit more plays than a lot of people expected, especially early. They've got a really good cornerback crew now after a free agency. Von Miller's there. Bradley Chubb is going to be out for six to 8 weeks, I believe. He just had surgery, so that hurts a little bit. But this is a defense that could create turnovers, which is huge. And this is an offense that has all the weapons. And as long as Teddy can really manage the game well enough, they could pull out some wins. But I'm gonna go pretender also. I don't think they're ready yet. I think you have two quarterbacks. You have no quarterback. I like both of them to win some games. I don't think I like any of them to win a big game. And I also think that this team's pretty young and pretty inexperienced, besides a couple of players like Von Miller. So I'm gonna go pretender as well. Following that, we've got the Carolina Panthers at 2-0. Now I'm gonna start with this one real quick, and this one's probably my closest one yet. I want to go contenders here, and I might. But I don't think that they're contending for anything serious. I think if I can give them the contender title, but without them having to actually be in like a playoff team, but like in terms of being a solid team that can win a good amount of games, I would give them that. I think that this is a good squad. I think Sam Darnold's going to work well in this offense, and he has so far. CMC is the guy that everyone knew he is. This is an offense that has playmakers. This is a defense that has maybe even more playmakers, and they have all the youth in the world. They've got great players like Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin. They grabbed Hassan Reddick from the Cardinals, and he was a monster last year. So this is a really good team. I'd like to go contenders here. But I'm not going to fully commit to them contending because I don't think they make a playoff spot, but I think they are a really good team.
I do think they make a playoff spot. I think they are for real. I think they are contenders. I think Sam Darnold has found the perfect fit. He has playmakers all around him, as you said, CMC. He's also got Moore. He's also got Robbie Anderson, who's a great deep threat, a fantastic deep threat. And this defense is filled with playmakers, so I think that they are a contender.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're contenders as well just because this Saints performance last week was terrible. I'm all out on the Saints this year. Mm-hmm. I think they could squeak by. They're obviously not going to beat the Bucs in that division.
Right.
However, I could see them losing in a wild card game. Sam Darnold, I really like the way he's working with Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's a guy that within the next 2 or 3 years will be a head coach of the team.
I agree.
And yeah, I just think that whole Sam Darnold experiment's working out very well.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really high on I think the Broncos and the Panthers were two teams that I know we were very high on before the year. Maybe not to be like a huge contender, but to win a lot of games a lot of people weren't expecting, and it's just how that's been going so far. The Colts 0-2. What do we think? Do you think they're going to turn it around? Do you think they're a pretender team that's a couple years away?
I thought coming into this year that it was going to be a great season for the Colts, but Carson Wentz, like, what was that? Even before the injury, the shovel pass interception, I just don't know what he's thinking. So until they can figure out that spot, sadly, they are pretenders.
I would disagree. I actually still have them as contenders. I think that division is terrible. The Titans, I think, will turn it around, but I think the Colts will be in the running there, and I think they could sneak into a playoff spot. I think if you can lose early and figure out what's wrong and then turn it around in comparison to losing late, I think you're in a much better spot.
Yeah, no, and I can get behind that as well. One thing that I'd say is I think the Colts are going to turn it up late, and I think that they might sneak into a wild card spot. But that's usually what they do. They turn it up late. I think they're going to realize, all right, well, we got to rely on John Taylor again. I think Carson Wentz will be more comfortable in the offense. Zach Pascal looks very good. Michael Pittman looks pretty good too. This is a team that has like the playmakers, and they have the offensive and defensive ability to be a playoff team. It's just cold start, and Carson Wentz is kind of weighing down this team so far. I think they'll turn it up late, but I'm going to say as of right now, I think I think they fit in as a contender. But a couple more weeks of stinking it up, and it might change my opinion there. The Texans are 1-1. What are we thinking? I mean, they've been looking really good for a backup quarterback team, and for a team that now is just lost Tyrod Taylor for, I believe, a couple weeks due to a hamstring injury. It's hard to not like to say that they're not like doing better than they should, right. But like they really are, and they're playing good. They're staying in every game. Even last week, they stayed in the game the whole way, and I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's just they found guys in free agency in their draft class that knew what everybody else was saying, and they bought into this Texans team, and they said, you know what? If we're not going to win, we're going to make a great game every time we play. They spent a third-round pick on Davis Mills, who's going to be the starter tomorrow night. I think he's a decent quarterback. I think he's a very accurate quarterback. He's not going to do anything better than anybody else, but he will keep them in games. I do have them as contenders because, like I said, that division's terrible, so you never know who's going to come out with anything, and I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, and for sure. And I think Brandon Cooks is really undervalued. He might be back to his wide receiver 1 status fully. He's been playing really well so far.
Yeah, so I have to say that they're a pretender, but I also don't want to take anything away from the Texans because, as you said, Jake, they are. It's very impressive what they're doing. Everyone thought that they'd be a 1-2-1 team. They already have one win already, so I got to give them their credit, but they are pretenders.
Yep, no, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what they do this week with their third string quarterback. So the Tennessee Titans 1-1. This is a team that I was pretty high on, and they've just been kind of disaster. First week, second week they come back and they win at the buzzer. Mm-hmm. It's a team that's very streaky, as you can tell, and one thing that I don't really love is they had to rely on Derrick Henry to go for almost 200 yards, almost 35 carries, I believe, and 3 touchdowns in order to pull that game out. You can't trust the guy to do that every week. I mean, he can, but that's just a lot to put on his shoulders, especially when you have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. You can't be trusting your running back to do that. Those guys are supposed to take the weight off of Derrick Henry. So this is what the Titans are trying to do. They're trying to figure out what's going on, try to take the weight off Henry. And they're 1-1. I think they're still contenders. I think by midway of the year they figure out how to work this offense, get everyone involved, and their defense straightens up, and I think they are contenders.
I think they are absolutely contenders. And, I think that we're going to touch on this a little bit later. I think Derrick Henry is going to be the MVP. So I think that you can rely on a guy like that to have 35 carries a game, close to 200 yards a game. So I think they are contenders.
I barely think they're contenders just because, like we've been saying, this division is terrible. Mm-hmm. I think they're far and away the best team in this division. However, their defense has stunk.
Yeah.
Like, you look at fantasy football, quarterbacks that have played against them the past 2 weeks, they've done very well. Mm-hmm. And that secondary, I think their best corner is Janoris Jenkins right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not a very good
It might be the worst secondary in football.
Yeah. And, like Aiden was saying, you can't rely on Derrick Henry to have 180 rushing yards a game against the Seahawks defense, who's not very good either.
Yeah.
They just squeaked by relying on Derrick Henry against a bad defense. I think they'll get it together because that Tannehill to Julio connection looked a lot better last week than it did in week 1. But they'll squeak by.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And now we have the Patriots at 1-1. Obviously a little biased here. Patriot fans, me and Ben. Jake, obviously a Jet fan, as you'd know if you were watching our show weekly, streaming on YouTube. You can find us on TikTok, content, all of that. You're gonna love what we make here. So please follow us on that. But like I said, Patriots 1-1. I think we are contenders. I think we make a wild card spot. I think starting the year off, we're working Mack into his rhythm, and we're getting Damian Harris going. We're getting the run game going. I think the only thing that really derails this team is, God forbid, if Damian Harris gets hurt. Because if he gets hurt, we don't really have that running back one guy. I mean, James White's a complete receiving guy. He could run a little bit, but I don't trust him to be the full-time running back. As long as injuries don't really play a part, I think Mack starts airing it out more to Aguilar, to Kendrick Bourne, all those guys. I think that the tight ends get more involved, and I think that they are contenders, barring anything out of the ordinary.
You know, they're contenders in the sense that they're contenders for a wild card spot. If they make the playoffs, not going to do anything when they get there, but they're contending for a wild card spot. And another thing is they have to win one way, and that's not really a thing that contenders are. Contenders can win multiple ways, but the Pats have to rely on that run game. They have to rely on their defense. So, it kind of sounds like I'm not saying that they're contenders, but I feel they are contenders.
I think they're heavy pretenders. I think
What a surprise.
I think last week might have been the biggest Patriots game in the history of their entire franchise for Mac Jones, and he is currently on pace to throw 8 touchdown passes this year. I think he's accurate at a little 5-yard pass, but you could throw any backup in the NFL to do what Mac Jones is doing right now, and he'll get the job done.
I would not agree with that. They had a backup quarterback doing what he's doing last year, and it didn't work.
Who?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton was an MVP. Is Mac Jones an MVP?
Was Cam Newton an MVP last year?
No. But is Mac Jones playing to the level of an elite NFL quarterback?
No, he's not, but he doesn't have to.
So who would you take? Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones to be the starting quarterback of the Patriots?
For the Patriots? Okay, fine. I would take Trevor Lawrence. I would.
Right. Mac Jones has underperformed. Yeah, their running game's been great. It was against the Jets. Like, I want to see them play the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers on a primetime game where all the lights are shining on Mac Jones. This is the same thing I said last week. Can he win in a big game, and can he win when his back's against the wall? He's yet to face that in the NFL because they haven't put any pressure on him so far.
Well, I think out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I'd probably say Mac Jones is the most likely to stay composed and win a big game like that. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has the weapons to do it just yet, of course. Obviously, that's not a team that's really going to be in many big games. I don't think that Zach Wilson's going to do anything after throwing four interceptions and almost more interceptions than completions, might I add. I don't think Trey Lance is going to do anything, at least just yet. I think he might be the second up in behind Mac in terms of big game playmaking as a rookie. But like I said, I think the Patriots can turn it on. I'm not one that's giving all the credit to Mac. I think he could definitely play much better. But I think for what he's doing so far, he's definitely looked like the best rookie quarterback yet. And I think that he'll keep it up. And you know what? It's all experience, honestly. As a rookie, it's all experience. So very interesting to see what happens with the Patriots throughout the year. Next up, Cowboys 1-1. I think that they're contenders. I think that this team is very, very good. And I think that it's a team that finally might be the Jerry Jones contender. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit to get them there. I really like Tony Pollard over Zeke, and we'll get into that in fantasy, in the fantasy football section later on. But I really think that if you're forcing Zeke, you're forcing him the ball. Yes, he'll be a playmaker at some times, but I feel like most of the time they're forcing him the ball. Tony Pollard, it just happens. He's so rhythmic with the offense. It's kind of like what I said about the Giants without Saquon last year, and with Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris and all them. When they don't have to force it to a running back, they could just run their offense, and the running backs produce better that way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing with Zeke. I think Tony Pollard is a legitimate starting running back in this league, and I think that Zeke might just be I'm not saying he's washed, but he might just be nearing the end of his prime if he's even been in that. If he's even been in that for the past couple of years.
I think that the Cowboys are absolutely contenders. I think this is the best the Cowboys have been since Dak's rookie year. Their defense is much improved from last year. It couldn't have gotten worse, but I think that the Cowboys are very good, and I love this last week for the Cowboys because it showed that they can win in multiple ways. We're going into this year, we all thought the Cowboys were only going to win shootout games. Last week, they won a gritty, tough defensive game, and that was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Everything they said was true. I think they're winning big games, which is important. Dak's back to his full form. I still like Zeke over Tony Pollard, but I understand the argument because Tony Pollard brings an entire other element to this offense. So, yeah, I agree. They're contenders.
All right, we're going to go rapid fire with these next few. Washington football team, 1-1. I'm going to say they're still contenders. It hurts not having Fitz, and it hurts having to trust on Heineke, even though he's been pretty solid. But I'm going to go contenders still. I think they figure it out.
I'm going to go pretenders just for the fact that the only way they would make the playoffs is by winning the NFC East, and I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I think they're contenders just because of the NFC East. I think their division's terrible, and they're going to win.
All right, next up, Eagles, 1-1. I think that they are pretenders, but I think they've been very impressive as of late. Jalen Hurts is the guy, and the Eagles are foolish for not realizing that sooner, not really putting him in the best situation and kind of making him feel like he's just recyclable whenever. You saw how it happened. They wanted Deshaun Watson. They were like the lead guys to get Deshaun Watson, and then everything happened. So it just comes down to really, Jalen Hurts is that guy there, and they've been impressive, but I think they're pretenders.
I'm on the same page as Aiden here. They are pretenders, but it's been extremely impressive. It reminds me a bit of Houston. It's been very impressive. I don't want to take anything away from them, but they are pretenders.
I think they're pretenders, but I think their defense has really stepped up this year. They held San Francisco to, 17 points?
Yeah.
And you know what? San Francisco probably has the best defense in the league.
Up there.
Yeah, you're not going to put up 25 on San Francisco every week. However, I think they did the most they could with the talent that they have on their roster.
Yeah, up next, the San Francisco 49ers. They are 2-0, and I think they are contenders. And I think, honestly, Jimmy G is going to keep playing his heart out. They're going to get the best out of Jimmy G. And then once it comes to the moment where Trey Lance looks good enough, I think they throw him in there. And I think he has kind of like a Mahomes-like effect later in the year. And I think this puts his team in Super Bowl contention. That's my thought process there on the Niners. I think they're contenders.
They are absolutely contenders. They have a great D. Garoppolo's ready to win. I think they're absolutely contenders.
Yeah, I think they'll come in second place in that division just because we'll get into this next. But I think the Rams are phenomenal.
The best team in football.
Yeah. Trey Lance is going to come in. Jimmy G's time is over, even though he's playing, as a fill-in average quarterback right now. But that's all you need when you have such a good team around you. So I think they're contenders.
Yeah, no, definitely. Up next, the Rams, like we just said, they're definitely contenders. I don't even think we need to touch on that.
Yeah.
Next, the Arizona Cardinals, contenders as well, 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking very good. Kyler Murray's looking like a beast. Seahawks are 1-1. I don't even think we need to touch on that too. Those three teams, all contenders, all very good teams. Packers 1-1. I'd say a little bit closer of a debate here, but I think they're definitely contenders still. Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked great. I don't think he even looked great last game. Aaron Jones did all of the work, so that's maybe a hot take, but that's my thoughts on that. I definitely think that the Packers are here to stay though.
They're pretenders. Their quarterback's a pretender. They're just all frauds.
I like that answer.
They are contenders. Aaron Rodgers controls if this team wins or loses every week, and he knows what he's doing. If he wanted to put up at least 2 touchdowns a week, he can do it. There's a reason why they're playing bad. I think he'll step it up, and I think they're going to go on a little run.
Yeah, and just to answer a couple questions here in the chat, Zach Wilson, thoughts on his debut? In New York, 4 interceptions. He almost threw more interceptions than completions. It's tough to give him any credit on that one. I think he'll bounce back, but that one hurts his record for sure. And Saquon just playing terrible so far this year. I think this is the week that determines what's going on with him. If he goes ahead and puts up a dud against the Falcons, I believe, then he might just take the year off.
To me, with Saquon, it's kind of a sad story. He's a great player.
Great guy too.
Great person. He just does not have an offensive line. It's pretty sad, to be honest with you.
So I said before week 1 on this podcast that Saquon was the most overrated running back in the NFL, and I'll stand by that word.
Taking the year so far
until he rushes for over 1,000 yards, which I do not think he will do this year.
All right, that's something we're going to keep in touch. I don't think he's definitely not on pace for sure. The Bears 1-1. I think that I wouldn't put a label on it just yet because Justin Fields is about to start for his first week. So I think that judging off this week, we can make a judgment on contender pretender. Yeah. Then Saints 1-1 here. I think that they're pretenders. I think that Watson's gonna, James Winston's gonna have his flashes throughout the season, but I don't think that this is a squad that gets it fully together. I think that they're gonna fall off a little bit near the end, so I think they're pretenders.
I think we're going to see how much of pretenders they are this week when they face the Pats.
I think the Saints are a top 10 team in the NFL. I think they showed flashes of dominance that first week, but James Winston sucks.
That's a hot take, and I like it here. Jets 0-2.
They're pretenders for the fact that they're pretending to be an NFL team. They should be in the CFL.
That's fake.
They should get demoted to the CFL. Comment below if you think they should do a demotion.
Hold on. Let me just ask you first. Who's your favorite quarterback of all time? Arguably, who you think is the best quarterback of all
Peyton
time?
Manning.
Peyton Manning. And didn't he have an interception problem his rookie year?
I mean, he had 17 years after that, so we don't have to address
All right,
it.
we don't know what Zach has after.
I'm not talking about Zach. I'm talking about his team.
We'll keep an eye on the Jets this year. Our way too early MVP predictions. I'm going Tom Brady at number 1. I think if he wins an MVP here, I think football should just cancel the rest of its existence and just name the rest of the season, the entire league. Every award, Brady Award, the MVP Award, Tom Brady Award. The Lombardi Trophy is called the Brady Award. Maybe give Belichick a nod too. I don't know. But Brady is just doing it all. Kyler Murray, I'd say, is my second, and then Russell Wilson here at my third. Benny, what about you?
I got to go with Derrick Henry at number 1 still. This guy carries the Titans on his back. He's going to go for 2,000 yards. He's going to be near 15 touchdowns. For second, I have Tom Brady. And third, I have Lamar Jackson. That was a huge win for him personally, for his legacy. The Ravens, so many injuries, so many people picking up tonight to make the playoffs at this point. So I got Lamar at 3.
As of right now, I have Brady at 1 just because, I mean, he's been tearing it up, and he's also 45 years old.
Oh, yeah.
At 2, I have Lamar Jackson just because his performance last week was absolutely dominant.
Yep.
Incredible.
Over 100 rushing yards. What was it, like 250 passing yards or so? I mean, he's not that he didn't know how to be a pocket passer because when he won MVP, he had the most pocket passing touchdowns in the NFL. But he's really taken steps as well as Marquise Brown has this year. And for number 3, I'm throwing a dark horse in here. If they stay relevant and good, I think Derek Carr is going to get a few votes for an MVP.
Hey, that would be sick.
I agree.
He has almost 900 yards in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
Just to add to Lamar, Jake, that early pick 6, that did not faze him at all. To me, that showed that he has the heart, the guts that you need out of a franchise quarterback. I loved it.
Exactly.
All right, and we're going to touch in for a quick second. Thoughts on the NFL taunting rule. Colin Cowherd made a really good point on this on his show that the NFL, I mean, for Goodell, their job is to make sure there's no fights like the Malice in the Palace. There's no big problems that come out of taunting. So obviously it's the right move for the NFL, but I think it's the stupid move. I think it's kind of like one of those things where it sounds good on paper, but you put it in the actual real world and it doesn't work out at all. These kids are not kids. These are grown men.
These are grown men.
Yeah, they're playing a game that a lot of money's on the line, a lot of dignity. This is their lifestyle. You can't expect them to get a huge first down and not throw the ball and flex or something. It's ridiculous.
And what we've seen the most this year has been a cornerback makes a great play on 3rd down and then moves his arms around, and then it's immediately another first down for the offense. That's degrading for a defense to stay on the field.
Yeah,
and it ruins games.
And honestly, all of these rules are just giving defensive players such a hard time. Honestly, nowadays, why would you, growing up, you're being a player, why would you want to play on the defensive side? You could do so much, and there's every rule in the book pinned against you to just make it hard for you.
And beyond that, all the attention goes to the offensive players. So if you're looking for fame from playing football, why would you play defense?
Right, for sure. We're going to go into the bets we like here for week 3 of the NFL year. We're going to start off. These are some great takes here from my brother, Jake. Big betting guy, loves to take the spreads. So here's what he gave me. Panthers -8 versus Houston. We'd rather go with a -6.5 alternate spread so you get that touchdown in there. But it's a little bit tough to grab alternate spread sometimes. Tyrod's out for Houston, which plays a huge factor into that. Next up, Cowboys Moneyline -190 versus Philly. I think the Cowboys are definitely the better team, and the Eagles will probably stay in it, but I think the Cowboys win for sure. Cardinals -7.5 versus the Jags. I think that this could kind of be a line that's 13.5. I think they win by 2 touchdowns for sure. Over 55.5 total for the Seattle-Minnesota game. I like that one. high-scoring game. Kirk's going to have to sling it to stay involved. Titans -5.5 versus Indy without Carson Wentz, most likely, I believe.
Yep.
That's going to be that's a pretty solid bet, I'd say. And Vegas -3.5 versus Miami. Jacoby Brissett is starting, and it's also in Vegas. And look, the Raiders have looked hot.
Yeah.
Some cheeky plays that you might want to keep an eye on. Pats -3 is +100 versus the Saints. Cincinnati money line is +144 versus the Steelers.
A lot of defensive players hurt for the Steelers.
Yeah, and Burrow can sling it. He might sling it into interception, but he could also sling it for a couple touchdowns late. And the Washington football team +7.5 versus the Bills. Those are a couple of the bets for this week. Print it with us. If we hit those, let us know. Reach out to us on Instagram. Also, like I said, follow us on YouTube at The Tipsy Tailgate. Follow us on TikTok at The Tipsy Tailgate. And follow us on Instagram at The Tipsy Tailgate. Also, follow us here on Colorcast so you never miss a Wednesday 8 p.m. stream. And then we're going to finish off here with our fantasy football topics. Players who've impressed. Cordero Patterson, converted receiver, converted to running back, converted back to receiver, back to running back. He does it all. He looked really good on the Pats for that 1 year, doing a little bit of everything, and he's been playing pretty solid here for the Falcons. Next up, Tom Brady. I mean, do we even have to touch on to it? This guy's an alien. He is unreal. Same with Gronk, who's also on this list. Both players that you could just rely on at this point.
Gronk is back officially.
And Gronk is back. Yeah, I honestly think losing that weight and kind of getting himself back in shape and getting the rhythm of the offense. Now he's like the fifth, sixth target on that offense, fourth maybe.
One-handed catch in the end zone last week.
Oh yeah, he looks great.
And then he came out after the game and said he's never watched film a day in his career. And he just asked Tom Brady what to do.
Doesn't.
And that sounds like a very, very Gronk thing. Cowboys defense, they've looked pretty solid. Yeah. Also on the Cowboys defense, talking about their offense, Tony Pollard, like we mentioned, he's a beast. I think he might just take over the starting reins in a couple more weeks if Zeke starts syncing it up or starts, honestly, it's, when you look at it, it's really the yards per carry. Zeke needs to get forced, and he needs to see the ball, 20, 25 times just to get nearly as many yards as Tony Pollard.
Zeke cannot read a block anymore.
Yeah, and he can, exactly. And it got to the point where Tony's even better at throwing blocks. And out of the backfield, he might even be more elusive at this point. So Pollard, keep an eye on him. He might just be the starter eventually. Honestly, if you can trade for him in a fantasy league, go ahead and do that. Lamar looked great. We talked about that already. Cooper Kupp has looked insane. He's back to his normal self as he usually is. Obviously now with Stafford, he's got that solid QB1, and he's been great since. Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, he looks great, 2 wins straight, and he's just dealing the ball. He finally got this next guy, Courtland Sutton, back in action, and Courtland Sutton is one of my favorite receivers in this league. I think he has huge star ability, big play, short play. He's just got great hands. I really like him. Henry Ruggs has looked really good getting over the top. He's starting to become more of like the Tyreek Hill type of receiver, which people were wondering whether or not he was, and he's starting to look like it. Rondale Moore had a nice big touchdown on kind of a broken play, but he's been looking good so far, and he's getting more in tune with Kyler Murray. Javonte Williams carry share versus Melvin Gordon last week. He got a lot of the carries. I think all that means is in 2-3 weeks, he's going to probably get all the carries, maybe even just a heavy bulk. Michael Carter for the Jets tore up the Pats, and he looked very good. Yep. Zach Pascal is touchdown machine on the Colts, and Devin Singletary broke out for a big run. So let's get into those are the people who impressed us this week. Disappointed, Benny, if you want to take over.
Yeah, I thought Herbert was extremely disappointing. He didn't look sharp at all. With that being said, they did have 2 penalties that took 2 of his touchdowns off the board, so I guess that isn't really his fault. But at the same time, you're the quarterback, you're the leader, you should have the reins on the offense. You have to be a better leader in that sense. And the Browns defense, I thought was going to be a top 5 D this year. They have been sorely disappointing. They've been awful, to be honest with you. And AB last week, it's going to happen. A lot of weapons on that offense. Not everyone can get all the targets, so that's just going to happen once in a while.
He's also just been placed on the COVID list for this week, so that's something to monitor. Seattle's defense, that's exactly what we have. Playmakers don't make plays. We have that written right next to it, and that's exactly how it's been so far.
Yeah, I think Mark Andrews is a guy that's going to bounce back because Lamar's going to get into that rhythm with everybody. Sammy Watkins is, obviously going to fall off just like he does every single year, which means Mark Andrews' targets are going to go up. Josh Allen, he's my fantasy quarterback in 2 leagues. He's disappointing me. He's the QB 19 right now.
Mm-hmm.
He had 16 points last week. Not loving him. Kenyon Drake, obviously, he's in a backfield with Josh Jacobs, even though Josh Jacobs didn't play last week, and he's still disappointed. And then Justin Fields, he disappointed last week, but it was, his first real NFL action.
Just kind of thrown into the fire.
Right. I think this week when he starts, he's going to prove a lot of people wrong.
And then we're going to wrap it up on one interesting one, someone to monitor. Zach Moss, running back for the Buffalo Bills. He fumbled to start, and then he goes and he finishes with 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Devin Singletary had a big touchdown run. Interesting to monitor. I have him on the fantasy teams. I was pretty high on him, I'm not going to lie. But he also mentioned in the tweet that I believe he had to bury his aunt a couple days before. And, a lot of people don't realize it, but these are humans. The stuff that happens in their personal life does affect them on the field. So it's something to watch. Getting 2 touchdowns, though, it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe he's the red zone guy for sure there.
And with Allen struggling, they might try to to start running the ball more.
Definitely. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode 3 of season 2 of the Fantasy Football and NFL special for our the Tipsy Tailgate podcast. We are very, very thankful for you guys, all the listeners. We got some almost 200 likes on this video. Great support. We're happy for to bring you some content and stuff that you guys can enjoy. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at the Tipsy Tailgate, and check out our rest of our videos. Without further ado, we'll see you guys next week.